Hey Leah, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Tell me about your company, Dapulse.
Sure. So, Dapulse is a collaboration and communication tool that was first founded in 2012, but went public and was first sold in 2014. And since then, we have acquired about 16,000, just over, paying teams in about 140 countries around the world. And the platform works to create a more effective, transparent, and open work environment for teams sizing two people to over 1,000.
Got it. All right. So, what would you say is a specific problem that you saw for the people you serve? Because there's a lot of teams. Every company pretty much has got more than one person, right? They're working in a team of some capacity. Even when there's one person, you might have contractors or freelancers working with you. So, what would you say is a specific problem that you solve that people just come to you for?
It's really interesting because it's hard to define one specifically. I think the tool functions as a central hub for anything and everything related to the work that you're doing. So it tracks conversations. It is a place where you can upload files. So
Okay.
it certainly is a certain like a central communication hub. But more than that, it gives whoever on the team is working together a sense of what the other is doing. So you put your projects in there, your colleague can put their projects, and you can check in on each other and know how the work you're doing factors into the bigger picture of what you're trying to achieve together.
Okay. Now, what would you say from all the experiences you've had? Like you mentioned you've got customers in well over 100 countries, right? So all over the world. What is the major benefit of having teams be able to communicate so easily and know what each other's working on to the ultimate bottom line and business results? How does that compare or
It's
translate?
a really direct correlation. What we have found is somebody that is working in a team, no matter what size it is, it's really, really important to the success of that individual to
Mm-hmm.
know how they factor into the bigger picture. So this tool lets you know what you're doing as an employee, but lets you know also what your colleague is doing. And you then get this inherent feeling of working together towards one goal. And that makes you feel empowered. That makes you feel educated. It makes you feel valued as an employee. We have an internal structure in the tool where you can like an update that somebody says, similar to
Mm-hmm.
the Facebook structure. And even if you're saying, I accomplished this today, you feel that your colleagues can see it and like it and support you. And so you don't need to have sort of a recognition method in place. You just know that your colleagues are seeing and supporting what you're doing. And that ultimately leads to a more successful person.
Got it. So I guess it also has an added benefit if for whatever reason you didn't know how your work impacted what the company did, you're able to see it visually there,
You know what? That actually happens way more than you think, especially at large companies. Is, we're all working to create something, but how does what I'm doing contribute to that process? And this gives you a very specific way to see your contribution on the sort of bigger stage.
For sure. Now, what is it about the companies who use your tool? What is it about their culture that makes them say, we want our employees and our team members to be able to talk and have this level of um, know-how and access to what everybody else is doing? Is there a specific trait that you have noticed that makes people more likely to want to come and seek you out or work with you guys?
I think the teams are so diverse that I'm not sure there's one single thing, but what they all have in common is they're trying to work together successfully.
Okay.
And people these days have different schedules, or they're in different countries, or there's all kinds of challenges to working together successfully. And this is a tool that is super intuitive, but also simple. It sort of looks like it's structured a little bit like Excel, which is how a lot of businesses keep their information, but it's live and interactive. So
Okay.
as you update, it updates for everybody else. And
Okay.
that is sort of the core offering that we've seen people most relate to.
All right. So your company recently fielded a survey. There was about 10,000 people who responded, which is a fabulous sample size, right? So, and one of the things that you were able to tap into or to uncover was the role of happiness and what makes employees most satisfied in the work that they do. Can you talk a little bit more about what you guys uncovered as a result of this monstrous survey that you did?
Yeah, it was just a small question of what makes you happy at work. Basically, I'm sorry about that. What we were trying to do was, as a tool that prides itself on contributing to employee happiness at work, we wanted to figure out the core of the issue. What is it that makes people feel fulfilled? I think the most interesting takeaway from the whole thing was, of the 8 attributes that we offered people to say, rank these in order of what makes you happiest, salary came last. It came in last amongst the manager section. It came last amongst, just general working employees. And that was something that really struck us because, of course, there's this certain amount of money you need to make to survive, and that's very important. But beyond that, people are looking for different kinds of things. They're looking for a company that is the best in its field, a company that supports innovation, a company that, has the kind of culture that they want to work in rather than, specifically salary or compensation. So that was something that was really compelling to us.
Right. Have you seen culture and the importance of working for a company that has a positive culture? Have you seen that start to trickle up in the importance rankings for what makes people want to work and stay and add their best to a company?
Absolutely. And you touched on, I think, the core of it. Add their best. How do you get the best out of your employees? And happiness and their own fulfillment is a huge contributor to that. We work in the startup space and see different kinds of perks, whether it's office space or extra vacation time or food and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, what we are learning time and time again from our users and also as a company ourselves is it is how you personally feel your work is being valued.
Okay.
That makes you happier.
For sure. And what have you seen that you felt is sort of as you've seen people working on trying to impact culture and happiness, what are some of the cool things that you've seen that companies have been doing to impact culture in that sort of way? Like you mentioned, perks are some of them. Are there other things that have popped up?
Yeah, and what's interesting is perks aren't necessarily the contributors. It's so many. It's really smaller things.
Okay.
If you're the basic level sort of humanity, if that's possible, it is feeling like what you're doing is being valued, recognized, and appreciated.
Okay.
And that's really hard for a lot of managers. A lot of managers aren't people who aspire to be managers necessarily, but as you go to be more senior in your position, it's a natural graduation of your role. And there isn't always training in place to say, this is how you should mentor and empower people. And what we tried to do is build that into the work tool so that inherently people feel valued and appreciated. A manager doesn't need to go out of his or her way to recognize his employee. So
okay.
That's something we've seen that's really important.
So have the companies who've used your tool, who they are sort of their employees, because of the way your tool operates, have they been able to see a direct correlation in the output and the quality of their employees' work overall, and in turn their business results?
Yeah, that's a huge source of pride for us. So not only do we get wow, our team's addicted to this, they love using it, we're very happy to hear that, but we also hear, your tool saves us $1 million a year or added $1 million to our revenue. And that's wild. That's just
wow.
Crazy. And we don't know specifically, is it because employees feel valued that they're working harder, or is it because it gives them an organization in culture that allows them to succeed? I think it's probably a combination of different things.
Right. So it's hard to put your finger on it, but the transparency helps.
Transparency is huge.
Got it. Now, what exactly how would you define a transparent organization?
Wow, that's a big question. So I think from experience, the way Dapulse as a company operates is the most transparent environment I have ever been exposed to. Our CEO came across a deck that was put together by Netflix about company culture and transparency. And what was described there is something that we've really adopted. And our CEO's mentality is he is hiring what he believes to be smart people. Okay. And if you empower those people that you hire with information, it gives them the ability to make their own decisions and take that same information and apply different ideas to it.
Okay.
So the idea is with transparency, with showing, this is where the money's going and this is how well we're doing and that kind of thing, it empowers people to, rely on their own brains and do creative things.
For sure. Have you found that more companies are becoming even more transparent as a result of using your tool and seeing the benefits of it?
Yes, absolutely. It's also scary though, and it's scary especially for, financial institutions or something like that.
Hmm.
The idea is it's empowering people, and with that also comes negativity. If you make a mistake or you do something wrong, it is equally as exposed as if you do something really well. And companies need to understand that that's a part of transparency. And it also gives people an opportunity to help. So if you see that a colleague is stuck on something or struggling with something or maybe didn't do something well, you can either offer support
Hmm.
or say, you'll get it next time, that kind of thing. It's sort of a double-edged sword, but overall very positive.
Sure. What role would you say software, in particular software like yours,
Yeah.
helps companies build diverse teams?
Yeah. So that is an issue that we think about all the time. It's a challenge that so many companies are facing now.
Hmm.
Great success stories that we have heard, one in particular. Diversity can mean so many different things, but when you have a tool that's online and allows people to work in one shared collaboration space,
Hmm.
it doesn't at all, reveal necessarily who's working on it. And so it is a way for people who might not be comfortable speaking in person
Okay.
or writing a long email in a specific language. Or we've had amazing stories come out of actually people with autism spectrum disorder saying, I'm not comfortable participating in a meeting or speaking
Wow.
out, but I can share my ideas through this tool. And so it's really a leveling of the playing field to highlight your contribution, however it may manifest.
No, that's a fascinating point because we think of diversity sometimes in very visual terms, right? But it's a broad range. It's diversity of thought, it's experiences, it's backgrounds. And there are a lot of ways in which people learn and they interact differently. So, in particular, I know ever since the book Quiet came out by Susan Cain a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, people have thought a lot about introverts and how you interact with introverts as you're working. So I imagine that your tool has worked wonders for people managing and operating with introverts. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, definitely. It sort of similar to the reason I described earlier. It's a way to participate as fully in the work you're doing without, exposing parts of your personality that you aren't comfortable with. So somebody that is more introverted, that doesn't feel like they can share an idea in a meeting, in an in-person meeting, can do it online through the tool, and it's shared equally to anybody else's idea. And that is something that people have really relished and succeeded with. So, yep. Go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry.
I was going to say, I guess I'm wondering, have you heard a lot of feedback from managers, the managers of the people who are using your tool,
Yeah.
that they probably found out different management practices and areas that have make them become better leaders as a result of the things that are being uncovered that people weren't actually able to see and experience before?
Yes, we have. It's amazing. And when we get all this credit, what's so interesting is the tool is a basic structure that can be adopted to any sort of business vertical.
Hmm.
And the idea is we don't know how to manage your specific team better or your specific industry. It could be managing a hotel or brewing beer or all these different kinds of things. But the manager's role is to adapt the tool into a way that best suits their team.
Okay.
And in that process, they learn so much about their team. And in our marketing strategy, that's specifically who we target is managers to say, you know, you manage X amount of people. This is a tool that can help you. We don't know specifically how, but we know that the structure can help, and it's up to you to adapt it to figure out how.
It's kind of like an exploratory thing. We know it's you put it in place and you kind of wait to see what unfolds.
We don't know how to manage a hotel, but we know that with this tool, you can manage your hotel better. And the next phase, and something that we're working on now, is creating a community of experts in their specific fields who have found especially successful ways to utilize the platform to
Hmm.
share with other people who might be facing similar issues
For sure.
or challenges.
Are there any specific examples that you can give us from one of your customers of how this tool has helped them in terms of their leadership methodology or even their bottom line results?
Yeah. So we have a few different case studies that I can even send you in writing to
Hmm.
take a look at. But yeah, the one that most comes to mind is just, it's not necessarily the biggest business gain,
Hmm.
that's not something we always ask about, but just from a personal perspective, we had a user who started using the tool when she was at Frost and Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sort of consultancy. And when she moved to her new job, it was essential. She felt it was essential that she took the tool with her.
Okay.
So this is somebody who isn't necessarily a manager, but she took the tool and adopted it into her new company and blew away her new manager on her very first day to say, look how well we can keep these organized. And it was a sort of information share, and also a way that somebody more junior can share with more senior to say we can all do our job better if we communicate like this.
Sweet. All right. Well, one other quick question for you before we wrap up. I read some data recently that said that nearly 70% of employees in the US are disengaged. And there's a big subsection of them that are actively disengaged, like they are actively looking for another job or they've just checked out. What is your advice for companies that want to change this trend? They want to actually work on getting their employees to become more engaged and more involved in what it is that they're doing, so that they can, one, not only be happier, but two, have a bigger impact on the company's bottom line.
That's an incredible statistic, actually. That's really scary to think about because, people talk about millennials and that kind of looking for jobs that are fulfilling to them. So that's still what the numbers are. We have a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think a theme that we touched on earlier was transparency, and that's something that we have seen work both for us as a company and also for all of our users around the world, is by giving your employees all the information. It not only empowers them and makes them feel more engaged, but it lets them know how the work that they're doing contributes to the success of the company, and it makes you feel engaged in the entire process. And by opening everything up and being transparent and being approachable and honest, it really flips the switch in people so that they can find meaning in their own work.
Sure. Oh, Leah, this has been super cool. Thanks so much for stopping by. Any parting words of wisdom for leaders who are working hard and especially interested in trying to build a culture within their company that fosters diverse and high-performing teams?
I would just say keep at it. It's a work in progress, and I think so many people are going through these same challenges. But if you find a tool that really helps your team, it can be all the difference, and the right intentions will pay off. And best of luck.
Sweet. All right. Super cool. Thank you.